people pride themselves on doing it all. However, when we do this, we're doing an injustice to ourselves and our businesses and our clients. I understand that delegating can be difficult, especially if you're a perfectionist like me. Stay tuned to discover what to delegate and what you should never, ever delegate. Welcome to the Biz Success in 15. I'm your host, Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and I'm here to guide you as you step into who you are with outrageous confidence for more visibility, influence, and profits. You can download your visibility checklist at visibilitychecklist.com. And today we're going to be speaking about delegating with Lisa Crilley Mallis. She's a time strategist who works with motivated and busy leaders and teams who want to take strategic action instead of being busy all the time. Lisa prides herself on helping her clients create customized, real solutions to everyday time management challenges and not just regurgitating the latest trends. Welcome, Lisa. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure being here.
Definitely. And what made you decide? I know that you was like a time management coach, but what made you decide to shift more and focus more on helping people with delegating?
I realized that I've owned my business for almost 10 years, and I realized that after working with clients that really delegating is the quickest way to reclaim your time. And when I look at the journey of different clients, sometimes clients come to me because they want more time to work on their business. So, like one of my clients owns an IT firm. And as he started to delegate more, he was able to free up time that he was spending working in the business, like working in his help desk. And so he was able to then work more on the business and create more revenue for the business because he was able to do some development work to be able to bring in more clients.
Right.
Other clients, they wanted to free up time to work on their health. So, I have a client who works in instructional design, and she now has freed up time in the middle of the day to walk her dog so that she gets more movement during her day because she recently had a major health scare.
Right.
Right. And then, I have another client who owns, she's a fractional recruiter for companies, and she just wants more time to spend with her family.
Mm-hmm.
And the way she was able to do that was to take some of her work, she has an assistant, and her assistant is awesome. And she wasn't utilizing her to her best ability. And so she was able to offload some of that higher level stuff that she was doing herself.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's able to spend the time after dinner, not going back to her office, but spending it with her family. Because she was really great about spending time at dinner with her family. But then she'd sneak away
Right.
and go back into the office.
Yeah. What's interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of people per se like me that have these perfectionist things, like if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. So it's very difficult to delegate sometimes. And also, I loved like your client that wasn't using her assistant to their fullest ability. And there were some things that I was 100% in control of, such as my calendar. I have two VAs, and I would not give my calendar to either of my VAs, like my login information or anything. So when I wound up in ICU with COVID, I'm trying I'm telling my VA like my passwords and stuff so she can block my calendar off, because for the first week when I could not do anything, I was in ICU for a month. like she was having to call everybody every day, like Cindy's in the hospital, so we're canceling the appointment, because she knew who my appointments were, but she couldn't stop them from rescheduling. And I know that taught me like a huge lesson, like, why am I in so much control of this? Why do I not want to let it go? And I would assume that that's one of the major obstacles that people have. Would I be correct?
Absolutely. Being able to give up control. And there's that idea of no one can do it as well as I can. Uh, and I'll share with clients, you're really busy and you're juggling 14 things. And when you delegate this to someone else, they're giving it their full attention.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably, you're right, they're not going to do it as well as you. They're probably going to do it better than what you can. I just before we got on this call, I got off with a new client and she said, I was in with a client meeting and they were so excited about this piece of collateral. And they like, this is the best work you've ever done. And she goes, I looked them in the eye and I was like, yeah, it wasn't me. It was, Susie. She actually is the one who created this collateral. So I think there's that piece of, what happens if they can't do it as well as I can? They'll probably do it better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understanding, that piece. And there's always that feeling of trust. Like that's always going to be there. And the more you work with someone, the easier that'll become. And you want to try to work yourself to that place before we get in a situation like what you got in, Cindy, where you're forced to work yourself that way. I
Yeah.
think of another challenge that clients typically face is just the fact that they're in a hurry. Like they're just in such a hurry that they're kind of delegating by the flyby mode. Like it's like, here's this thing, go do this thing, and it's really hit or miss without a process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Systems and processes is so important.
yeah, and I find that typically that's one of the biggest challenges that is easiest to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like the trust thing that can be a little tougher. It takes a little more time, but the hit or miss, like you can learn a process, you can follow a process. That's a lot easier to overcome.
Exactly. And what was crazy to me with that is my one VA has been my VA since 2014. So it's definitely a lot of trust. She knows me. She knows my voice. She knows, she calls me her West Coast mama, right? And so, I mean, we're very close. And I was like, why did I never give her this? Like, why, I have no idea why, but it's like I wanted that control. So I think it's very cool that you're focusing on delegating, because I hear so many people, they like pride themselves on wearing all these different hats. Well, today I'm a copywriter, and today I'm a video editor, and today I'm a podcast editor, and today I'm going to coach, and today, so they're wearing all these hats and they pride themselves, but I don't think you're getting anything done good when you're doing that.
I don't think so. I would agree. I feel like there's I guess there's two schools of thought. There's
Mhm.
that was it inch deep, mile wide, or inch wide, mile deep.
Mhm.
Jack of all trades, master of none. So I guess it's what's your business model, what's your philosophy type of a thing. In my business, I would much rather spend my day working in my zone of genius, doing those things that I am really good at, that move my business forward, and that I love to do. When I can spend 80% of my day there and 20% doing some of the other stuff, that's why I started my business. And then when I can help clients do the same thing, like that's why I focus on delegating, because I mean, that's why you run your own business, to do what you
Ex-
love.
Exactly. Yeah, that's, I mean, my motto and everything that I teach is create a fun and profitable business, because there's too many people out there creating businesses they hate.
Mhm.
And part of that, I think, is because they're doing too much. They're doing things that don't align with them or that's not in their zone of genius. So I'd love to know the delegating process that you teach, if you can share that with us.
Absolutely. So it's 4 steps: why, what, who, and how.
Mhm.
So the why centers on, why do you want to delegate in the first place? Like, there's no need to go through the other 3 steps if you're not really clear on what do you hope to gain from delegating. Like, sometimes people will come to me and they'll be like, my business coach told me I need to delegate. And I'll be like, okay, well, what do you want to get out of it? And they'll be like, well, I really have all the time I need to do the stuff I want. I'm like, then you do not need to go to delegate. Go back and do what you're doing. So,
Right.
like, why? What do you want to get out of this? And then when we look at the what, it's all about what's your zone of genius, and then what's the other stuff on your plate? What are the things that you should keep? What are the things that you can start to offload to whatever those resources are, which is the who. Who are your resources? And we can fall into that. They have to be a 40-hour a week person, and I don't have the resource, I don't have the money, or I don't, whatever. Just think of your delegating bench as this huge pool of people who are dying to be one of your resources. And then finally, the how. And this is the place I get the most questions. Yeah. I delegated one time a million years ago, and all I did was answered questions all day long and had to stay late after work to get my own work done. Or, I've delegated in the past, and um, at the last minute, they came back to me and it wasn't done right, or like all this stuff. Well, the how is a process. There are
Mhm.
steps to follow in the how. So, 4 pieces: why, what, who, and how.
Mhm. I really like the why part, simply because that really gets you to think about what you really love to do and why are you delegating it. A couple weeks ago, I was doing something and I thought, why in the hell am I doing this? This is a total waste of my time when I have 2 perfectly capable VAs that could be doing it.
Yes.
And so it's interesting because I have always been a perfectionist or a take charge, take control type person. And so delegating has definitely been one of my biggest challenges in my business. But COVID forced a lot of delegation because before that, I prided myself on working 14-hour days. And then it was like after I had COVID, I could only work maybe 6-hour days. So if for the same things to get done, I had to delegate more. Um, and also, whenever people say that they don't have the money, my first 2 VAs that I ever had in my business were both trades. I coached them, they did VA work for me. And if you're a coach, you're going to find people out there that want to be coached by you, that have skills you can utilize to delegate.
Absolutely. And, as you're sharing your stories, I'm thinking part of the why is, what are the things that could potentially hold you back from delegating?
Mhm.
And the flip side of that, what are some of your skills that can help you as you delegate? That's all those stories are part of the why. It's
Right.
all part of the why.
Very cool. Oh, okay. And so I know that I'd love for you to share some of we've talked a little bit about some of the challenges they face whenever they try to delegate, but I know that you said that you had something to go along with something that they can do in 15 minutes to help them with these challenges.
So a lot of times when we're delegating, and I say we because I am as guilty of it as anyone else. I will fall back into old habits myself, even though I teach delegating for a living, is we'll do that hit or miss flyby delegating. Like, here's a thing, go do with this thing. And then we're wondering, why did that not go well? Like, I don't
Mhm.
understand. I gave really specific instructions, like, here's this thing, go do it. 15 minutes. Block in 15 minutes and just think, what's a task I could delegate? What's a process I could define right now to help me delegate a task? Who's a person I could add to my delegating bench? What's a skill set that I need to be on the lookout for, because I know I have a group of tasks over here that all seem similar and I want to be looking for something. One of my clients recently is like, just had shared, she goes, I don't know where I'm going to find this person, but I know the next person I need to hire needs to have a really strong financial background. And I know within 6 months, maybe a year, that person will show up for her. She's identified exactly, these are the tasks, all the pieces. She's like, I can see exactly what I need. And so that's what you can do in 15 minutes. Start building out the pieces. Then the delegating becomes easier. Otherwise, you're thinking, oh, I could have delegated this thing if I only would have thought about it yesterday or the day before or the day before that.
Right. I know too, and I'm sure a lot of people, it's like, it takes time to teach people things. So sometimes it's like, well, I can just get it done faster. One of the things that I started doing was, for my VA that I've had since 2014, I will hop on a Zoom call with her, we'll record it, and then she makes a step-by-step checklist of all the steps that we put into, we have a Google Doc with everything that has to be done with step-by-steps in it. So this is a joint effort, but now I know that I only have to teach it once. And so if somebody else comes around, or if my other VA needs to do it, then she can hop in and she has these step-by-steps to do it. Something that even with me is like managing people that are delegating you. And I even had this question in my group program yesterday from one of my clients. It was like, how do I manage my people? How often should I talk to them? Or, how do I make sure they're doing the things that I want them to do? I tell them to do something and 2 weeks later, it's not correct, right? So can you give us a few tips on how to manage your team?
Absolutely. I think that it's two-way communication. So like, I never look at it as managing the team. I look at it as making sure they have the information and the permission and the confidence to be successful. So a big part of the delegating process rests on the shoulders of the person who is doing the delegation. So as long as I'm giving them all the information they need, the access to the materials they need, all of those pieces, then part of that includes a communication channel back to me to ask questions. Another part of that includes check-ins. In the calendar, specific, when are we checking in and what are we checking in on? And in the frequency and the cadence, that depends on who they are, what the project is, all of that. What'll happen typically is left up to chance.
Right.
The person delegating will assume, the person on the other end will ask questions if they have them. The person on the other end is going to assume that if they ask a question, they're being a bother, and they're not going to ask until the very last second, which is typically too late. And then everyone's in rush and panic mode. Or they think they understand everything they're supposed to do until they start it, which is too late. And then everyone's in rush and panic mode. And so if you can set up some check-ins, then that helps manage the process without micromanaging. It's just a regular part of the routine.
Right. I really love that a lot. And I know that you have or before we go there, is we said, what should we delegate? How can we decide what we should delegate and what should we never delegate?
I think that is really easy. So often we will overcomplicate things. Your zone of genius, don't delegate it. It's yours. You love it. It moves the business forward, and it's easy for you to do. Like
Mhm.
that's how I define zone of genius. Those three criteria. Easy for you, love to do it, moves the business forward.
Mhm.
Everything else, it's up for grabs. And so what should you delegate? Everything not in your zone of genius. What should you never delegate? Your zone of genius.
Right.
And for me, it's that black and white. Now, does that mean that 5 minutes after listening to this episode, that's what happens? No.
Right.
But you can start that list of here's my zone of genius, here's all the rest. When you take that
Mhm.
15 minutes to work on delegating things, that's what you can do. And you start that list, and then you can just start whipping them out one at a time.
Yeah. And I would think too, sometimes that money making activities, to me, I think that a lot of times, if you have your own business, you should be more in control of those. Even if you're delegating parts of it, be more in control of them. Like, and I know huge 7-figure companies that have sales coaches, you know, any of the big names, Jack Canfield, Brian Tracy, they have all their sales coaches. But I think whenever you're first starting out, I've had people ask me this, can other people do my market research for me? Or can other people do my strategy calls for me? And I'm like, well, the person's going to be hiring you. And so you should be doing those. So I think sometimes some of the skills we should learn to improve our business.
And I would say it depends.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of it depends on the type of business that you're running. I have a client who runs a really successful business and outsources all her sales calls. And it works great. She sets it up at the beginning by saying, my team. And so
Mhm.
they don't expect that. I do my own sales calls.
Right.
And so I just think it depends on, but again, in my the way that I work with clients, my answer is always it depends, Cindy. I always say it depends. No, I'm training, I'm coaching, I'm speaking. Someone will ask me a question, and I'll always start with it depends, and then the rest of the conversation. Like I feel like people's business decisions are unique
Mhm.
to their and I feel there's that, and I know I've listened to a lot of your episodes, and I feel like there's a thing about energy, and sometimes bringing that energy of I hate this, but I feel because I'm a business owner I have to do it, kind of defeats the purpose of the activity, whatever it may be.
I agree with you there too. And typically, I'm such a great thinker, and I was just thinking that's a very black and white thought that you have to do it or you don't, um, because because we're all different, we're all individuals, we all create our own fun and profitable businesses the way it looks like to us. And I've said so many times, probably I've heard this so many times, is I hate Facebook, but I know I have to use Facebook to be successful. And I'm like, who says? Like, who's this invisible person that says that you have to use Facebook to be successful? And so thank you. Thank you for correcting me on that. I appreciate that. And so now I know that you have a wonderful free gift for our listeners. Can you share what it is and how they can get it?
Absolutely. So as we were talking earlier, like the questions I hear are usually around the how. Like, how do I hold my team accountable, which is what you asked, or
Mhm.
how do I explain a project so that it's easy to understand? Yet I find that the piece that people typically overlook is who. And that's the one that holds people back. So it's kind of like when you go to the doctor and you talk about your symptoms, and they you can get medicine to treat the symptom, or a couple more questions can be asked and you can get medicine to treat the actual problem. And I feel like who is the bigger problem than the how to start with. And so the free gift is 28 delegating resources. And what it is it's a list of 28 places that you can use to start brainstorming people to add to your bench. And every one of those 28 categories have been used either by myself or one of my clients. And There's a wide list. Where it is a lot of places, 28 of them,
Mhm.
for you to look at, but it keeps you from falling into that habit of, I can't delegate anything more right now because my current team is maxed out, or I'm not really sure where else to look, or I need someone with this special skill set and I don't know where to get that. Like, we're really covering a wide range of opportunities, of places to look.
Right. I love that. Thank you. And how would they get that?
They can go to impactivestrategies.com/28DR for delegating resources.
Mhm. So that's Impactive, IMPACTIVE, strategies, STRATEGIES.com/28DR.
DR.
Okay. Oh, I love it. And so we're getting close to the end here. Can you share with us what your favorite overlooked delegating resource is?
Absolutely. I'm working with a really small nonprofit right now. There's 4 of them. And as we have this whole list of things that are not in their zone of genius, and their interns are maxed out. Like, legitimately, they have 2 interns, they are maxed out. The 4 of them are maxed out. And then we still have a list of, I think there's like maybe 60 things on their list that they would like to delegate. And they're like, now what? And I'm
Mhm.
sitting in the room going, oh my God, now what? Like, we've got all this whole list, now what? And community supporters and raving fans, they have, they do amazing work. They
Right.
have people in the community who absolutely love who they are, their mission, what they do. And as soon as we hit that idea, their list grew. They have now, I want to say, over 40 people on their delegating bench of various skill sets who have agreed to come in and donate a couple hours a day to a couple hours a year,
Mhm.
the whole gamut. And we now have their list of tasks and projects with people assigned to like 70% of them now, all coming from their community supporters.
Love that. Very, very good. And do you have any final thoughts for us before we say goodbye?
Just take action today. Like, that's it. Once you click off of this, pick one item and decide, okay, this is it. I'm going to delegate it and then move forward.
Okay. I love it. And thank you very much for being our guest today. It's been a pleasure. Definitely learned a lot. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot. So, to our audience, you want to get out there and start delegating. Or first, discover your why. All righty. So, you want to tune in next week for another episode of This Success in 15. Step into who you are with outrageous confidence, and remember to get your visibility checklist at visibilitychecklist.com. See you next week. Bye.